I've had this question in my drafts forever and I just forgot to talk about it, so here we go. This one is kind of hard because I feel like most horror movies can be considered survival horror. I've excluded any zombie and shark movies because I've talked about those separately before. My personal favorite survival horror is probably You're Next. I think this movie came in and completely revitalized the slasher genre. I think Erin is one of the greatest and just most badass final girls of all time. And I think this is basically a perfect movie. I agree with the ones that this person said. I do want to talk about the Belko experiment a little bit because I think that this movie is so underrated and never gets talked about, and I have no idea why. This movie was a lot more dark and gruesome than I expected it to be, and the concept of it is actually pretty fucking terrifying. This is one that'll have you on the edge of your seat basically the whole time. Another movie that I just think is severely underrated, I have never heard anybody talk about, and I think this one was just a victim of a terrible time because it came out in 2020 during the pandemic. But this one has a great cast, and it also has a great balance between like tension building but also comedic relief. There's a lot of unexpected twists and turns. It's just a roller coaster. Go watch it. I love this movie. Okay, so this one is definitely more of like an action thriller. But if you were to ask me what movie I've watched in my life that caused me the most anxiety, it's this movie right here. From literally start to finish, your heart is racing the whole time watching this movie. It is just pure action and anxiety from beginning to end. I consider this Frozen to be a survival movie, and I've never really talked about this movie before, but I watched it once when it first came out, and I think it's just a super unique concept, and it's literally just 3 characters on a ski lift, but it works, and that's really tough to do. If you want to be absolutely devastated and destroyed, watch Eden Lake. This one is a wild ride, and it's a rough watch. I have admittedly only watched this one once, and I have not yet had the balls to return to it. I obviously have to give a shout out to Saw, which is just one of my favorite horror franchises of all time. And this is one of the rare franchises where I truly enjoy every single movie in it. I just always gotta show love for Saw. I fucking love Rob Zombie and I don't care what anybody says. And I especially love his movie 31. This one is just pure Rob Zombie gore and chaos, and I love everything about it. And I get that's not for everybody, but it's for me, so it's on the list. This person also mentioned The Purge and The Strangers, which I entirely agree with. I think the first Purge especially had an essence that like the rest of them don't really have. They just progressively got more chaotic and I feel like they just started trying too hard. But the first one is simple, it's gruesome, and it's a really great movie to me. The Strangers is also probably my favorite home invasion movie of all time, and probably just in my top 10 horror movies of all time in general. Speaking of my favorites, another one of my favorites is The Descent. The Descent can probably fall under several different categories, but I think it could fall under survival horror as well. And any opportunity I have to shout out this movie, I'm gonna take it. I enjoyed A Quiet Place, and I actually really enjoyed A Quiet Place 2 a lot more than I thought I was going to. And finally, this isn't necessarily one of my favorites. I just don't think I've ever talked about this movie before. So this was the Wrong Turn remake from 2021. I don't even consider this a remake because I feel like it is entirely different from the original Wrong Turn. And I really enjoyed just how this movie was done. It had some really cool kills. Overall, went in with very low expectations and it surpassed them. I have not seen Ready or Not, so I can't put it on the list.